Alright, to round out our exponent rule remote learning here unit, we're going to look at all three of the rules within each individual problem. So we're going to have product rule, quotient rule, and power rule. So let's kind of review what those were. Product rule, again, is when we have the same base and they multiply, we add the powers. So again, as long as it's x's and we're multiplying, we would add the powers up above and we get x to the sixth. Quotient rule, we have the same base, they divide, we subtract the powers. Again, x to the 10th, let's say x to the 6th. We subtract top minus the bottom. 10 minus 6 gives us 4. And when we learned about yesterday, power rule is when you have a power to a power, they multiply. X to the second to the fourth times x to the 8th. What we're going to look at in our examples here are all of these rules mixed together. So we're going to have to use each individual one. Alright, so let's start with this one. What I typically do with these problems, especially if they're in fraction form, is I'm going to simplify the top as much as I possibly can. So I don't even care that the bottom part of the fraction exists. I'm just going to worry about the top. 4 is going to multiply with the coefficient 1 over here. So that's just 4. Then I have y to the third and y to the first. They're multiplying, so we're going to use the product rule. 3 plus 1 gives us y to the fourth. Remember, this 4 does not talk to this 4 at all. There's no parentheses, it's y to the fourth. Now that I've simplified the top, I'm going to do the same thing to the bottom. Alright? 4 can't multiply anybody. Y can't multiply anybody. X can't multiply anybody. So that is as simple as it possibly can be. Now that both top and bottom are simplified, now I'm going to use the quotient rule when possible. Quotient rule, so 4 divided by 4 leaves us 1 on top and bottom. No, we do not have to write the ones. I'm going to write them for just so I got that part. Then I can simplify the y's. There's 4 on top, 1 on bottom, so 4 minus 1 gives us y to the third. Nobody combines with the x, so he stays right where he is. And we're done right there. An acceptable answer would also be this without the ones. Alright, let's try another one like this. So first start with the top. There's nothing I can do to make the top simpler than it currently is, so it's 3y squared. 3 and y are not the same base, so we can't use the product rule. The 2 can't do anything with the 3. There's literally nothing to do with that. Now we're going to worry about the bottom. 2 times 4 gives us 8. X to the third times x to the fourth. Ooh, excuse me. X to the third times x to the fourth gives us x to the seventh. Then y to the fourth times y to the second is y to the sixth. Now the bottom is as simple as it possibly can be. Now we get the two sides to talk to each other. 3 and 8 do not share anything in common. They're going to stay exactly as they are. Now the y's, a little bit off center, but they're going to go together. So in our final answer, we're going to have 3 over 8 y's. So I have 2 on top, 6 on the bottom. 2 minus 6 gives us y to the negative 4. Nothing combines with the x again, so we still have x to the 7th on the bottom. Not allowed to have a negative exponent. Negative exponent moves to the opposite side of the fraction. So the final answer here in purple is 3 over 8 x to the 7th, y to the 4th. Now, answers are typically written in alphabetical order. It is also acceptable to have these out of order. You will see on any answer key that you'll have from me is that the x's will go before the y's. Alright, let's throw in some power rule. So this is power rule and product rule. This 2 is going to apply to all of these powers. So I have 2 squared, x squared, y squared, which really means I have 4x squared, y squared. 4 doesn't multiply anybody. X squared and x squared gives us x to the 4th. Y squared times y to the 1 gives us y to the 3rd. And there's our final answer. Power rule goes before any of the other rules because parentheses before anything else. So we get y squared x to the 3rd times 2 times x. Nothing multiplies the 2. The x's combine to give us x to the 4th. Nothing combines with the y's. And we get our answer to x to the 4th y squared. Because 3 plus 1 gives us 4. And the 2 y's just go along for the ride. I'm going to throw some quotient rule and power rule. So this 2 on the outside, I save for last, because he's all the way on the outside. He's going to go last. We start most inward. So I'm going to distribute this 4. So I have x to the 4th on top. I then have x to the 12th on bottom, all still raised to the second power. Here, I guess I have a choice. This doesn't have to go last. I could then use the power rule to bring the 2 on in here. So we're going to kind of have these problems set up dueling, and you'll see that it's the same answer in the end. So if I distribute the 2, I get x to the 8th over x to the 24th. I use the quotient rule, meaning I take the 8, subtract 24, and I get negative 16, x to the negative 16. So my answer is 1 over x to the 16. If I save this 2 for the end, if I save this 2 for the end, and I decide to use the quotient rule first, so 4 minus 12 gives us x to the negative 8th squared. I could use the power rule right here, and I get x to the negative 16th, which we notice is the same, which is 1 over x to the 16th. Similarly, we could have also got this to be 1 over x to the 8th, make it positive. The 2 applies to both. 1 squared is still 1, x to the 16th. Regardless of how you approach this problem, you get the same answer every single time. We're going to use the power rule on our 2 sets of parentheses. We get 2 to the 4th, y to the 16th, all over x to the 3rd, y to the 3rd. 2 to the 4th is 16, nothing simplifies with it. X to the 3rd, nothing simplifies with it, so it's gone. Quotient rule between the y's, 16 minus 3 gives us 13. It's positive, stays on the top, and we're done. Tomorrow we're going to look at more of these rules, but we're going to throw in negative exponents as well.